Apurva, let me start off by saying that at 19, 20, or whatever that is, you are the youngest editor in the industry. Is it true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, might be the youngest. That's what I've been told.
But is it 19 or 20?
Well, I'm 20 now. When I did Daud and Satya, I was about 19 then. Yeah.
Has age gone against you as far as work is concerned?
In a way, age has gone against me. In a way, age has worked in my favor. For example, when you're this young and you started out at the age of 15 or 16. I was directing television before that. I had my own shows on air, things like that. Age did play a part against me for some time because people don't tend to take you very lightly, right? Considering that you're 17 and you're handling actors who are 40 and 30 and you have this massive cast of people who kind of, might at times, take you for granted because, oh, he's so young, what would he know? Things like that. So what happened at that time was this kind of mechanism worked where I popped a cigarette and, you had to work it that way. And I grew a French beard and I wore this cap and things. I tried to look very, very mature. That didn't help. It was finally my dedication towards my work and the way I valued my work, and that helped.
Now, let's get back. When and where did you start your work?
I think it was 94. It was in 1994, beginning of 94, on Jan, when I was in college, but just about a year down in college. There was a music video contest organized by road track clubs where MTV, Channel V were covering it, and we had judges like Prahlad Kakkar, we had Sunil Sajwani, celebrity Sunita Rao, things like that. But you had to make a music video with your home video camera, an amateur music video, and it was called Child in Life, as you see Child in Life, with an existing track. And I worked on John Lennon's Imagine, which is one of my favorite tracks, and I didn't show people how sad it was to be poor and deprived and things like that when you're a kid. But I showed them the brighter side of it, and these kids having a great time and enjoying life and the optimistic attitude that they had. And I won Best Director there. So people like Sunil and Prahlad Kakkar, they were so encouraging, so encouraging. They said it on air, that they found me talented and this kind of talent should be encouraged. And I was immediately offered jobs by many of them, and I opted to work with Sunil Sajwani, doing BPL Oye, Channel V, where I assisted him in script, this, that, whatever, even editing and direction. Then after that, there's been no stopping. We moved from company to company to company. I grew. I write, right? It's not just technique that helps. You have to have a particular style of storytelling, which has helped me make my serials and things like that. So that's when I started. It happened quite by chance. I never planned it, actually.
So, what do we call you, an editor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, after doing all that, Apurva, what do I call you? An editor, a director of television serials, or what?
I'd like to be called a filmmaker, a total filmmaker, because I'm making my own feature film now. That's what I always wanted to do. Editing was the closest I could get to big filmmakers like Gopal Verma. I've done 3 films with him. I've done Daud, I've done Satya, and I just completed a film called Con. That's the closest I could get to filmmakers like that. And then I am an independent head, a technical head on the film, also a creative head. So I realized I could actually, explore new territories, do a little editing, things like that. But I somehow got set as an editor, and people do appreciate my work.
And how did your association with Ramu come about?
My association with Ramu was quite funny, like I was telling you. What happened was I was working at CMM Studios, very briefly. And Ramu had come there to make some promos for his film Daud, which was still under production. And I had been making promos for films like Bombay, for Mani Ratnam, Khamoshi, and things like that. People had appreciated one time. So Ramu asked me to make a promo for Daud, and I made a couple of them. And I worked really hard because I knew it then and there that I wanted to work with him. So most of my love, more than my love for the promo, it was my whole ambition to work with him. I think I did a good job. He was really impressed, and he asked me if I'd like to edit some more of the film, like the songs, things. I did very little. And then one day we were in his car, and I was like, Ramu, I think you should edit your film Satya. He was talking about it on an Avid setup. That's the setup I edit on. That's hard disk based, totally offline. And Ramu said that, yeah, good, whichever studio you decide. I was like, why me? Because you're editing the film. And I stopped breathing for a while, you know. I mean, I was in his car, and I had no idea. It took me time to come back to myself, to get composed and things like that. And I said, "Come again, sir." So he says that, "No, I'd like you to edit Satya. I mean, do you think you could handle it?" And I said I could handle it because I had edited the serials I had directed for television before that. And we did Satya, and I don't think I worked only in the capacity of an editor. My name does appear as edited by Apurva. But the fact remains, I worked on script sessions, I worked right from conception, even conceptualizing certain sequences after they had been shot. You know, my interpretation that I give sequences are very different from what the director conceptualizes. You know, I give it my a very distinctive style. It might work, might not work, but that's the way I choose to work. And that has somehow worked well with someone like Gopal.
What is it in Satya that you did was your idea? Can you give me specific?
Okay, sorry, Ramu. I'll have to tell her now. Satya, well, the opening title sequence was never planned the way it was done. And I'm very, very, very proud of the opening title sequence. It has shots of Mumbai. And it has a very, very funny editing style. I mean, you'd least expect to see this shot of suddenly, well, you're seeing beautiful birds, and you'll see this Poonam Chambers collapse, which looks like a bomb blast. You'll see Kalu Mama just pick up a gun from somewhere. It does not connect, you know. But my voiceover, which I wrote right there, Mumbai, ek aisa shahar jise neend nahi aati, jo jaagte hue bhi sapne dekhta hai, you know. The whole voiceover I penned one night, along with two brilliant actors, Manoj, Bajpayee, Aditya Srivastavu in the film. Aditya played Inspector Khandalkar. We got him to dub it, and we edited this. Man was really impressed, Ramu. I mean, give it. Then, for example, the encounters. You know, when Amod Shukla, the police commissioner, says that we've got to clean the city, and you have the series of encounters with this alap again. And I had these white flashes, and I had cuts that didn't last very long. For example, suddenly I had this man in a salon having his hair done, you know, and another cut of having his hair combed. Now I go back to another visual. When I come back, you expect to see something like that, and he's shot dead right there in the same salon. You know, so for a moment I was giving the audience a, you know, oh, it's easy, let him go back, bring them back, you know, constantly. In fact, Satya, the entire film had to be worked on that kind of a style, because the film was so hard hitting, the story, you know, things like, if the cuts weren't, it would fall flat. Every cut had to speak volumes, every cut. It had to shock you. I couldn't give you the regular master shot, mid shot, close up, master mirror, no. I'd give you cuts that might break rules of editing. I agree, we have broken a lot of rules. A lot of cinematic liberties have been taken. But what ultimately matters is how you tell a story to the audience. And I feel, finally, it's an editor who tells that story. The director shoots the film, he can't do much after that. It's an editor.
For Daud, what did you do? Which song did you edit?
Well, Daud, we did what's the song? O Bhavre. You know, it had shots, I mean, again, it had a very erratic editing style. I mean, we just did something here and there, whatever. But it was fun. Daud was a fun film. And there was, what was that song? I keep forgetting. It was towards the climb. Have you seen Daud? Yeah, anyway, it was this, Urmila as this Catwoman type of a thing, and Sanjay Dutt. Yeah. That's basically, but Daud is not, I wouldn't say I edited Daud. I did the promos of Daud, which I'm very proud of. But Daud wasn't my film.
Now coming to, okay, in Satya, which would you say was the most difficult scene that you had to handle?
It might seem very silly, but there's this one sequence which had hardly any cuts, you know. There's when Chandar, the jovial, funny man in the gang, gets shot dead in the encounters when he's killed. And these three, Biko Matre, Satya and Kalumama, sitting together in the den, you know, in their den, and they're talking to each other. And Biko is upset. Mar gaya sala. He's almost crying and things like that. And Satya's just watching him. Now, what I had to do there, I decided when I saw the film being shot itself, I decided that I wanted the audience there to feel sad for Chandar, you know, not just because what he says, the way he says it, you know, my heart goes out to Biko Matre. And I did want my heart to go out to Biko Matre, but it would happen better if I felt for Chandar there. Chandar was dead and gone. So while he's talking, I suddenly have this flash cut of Chandar just laughing. It's like about 15 frames, you know. He's got this roaring laughter that overlaps onto his dialogue, and then you see his face, the pain. And the way I cut it, I opened it with Sabir, I mean the guy with long hair, you know, who's just a silent character throughout, you know, having his coffee. I mean, just imagine, this guy being killed there, Okay, they're crying. This guy's having coffee. Life goes on. The entire cut. The entire cut. Another difficult sequence to edit was the construction site sequence. You know, when there's a shootout, the first shootout, when Satya actually becomes involved in gang war. You know, that was so difficult to edit. You know, we took days, and I almost gave up editing right then. You know, but finally we did a reasonably good job.
What is it in that film that would show your creativity or your...
See, first of all, Gone is a psychological thriller with only 2 or 3 characters, basically. It takes place in one house. So basically, an editor does not have much scope to give you fast cuts or to give you, you know, different locations, different characters, get the right reaction. You can't experiment a lot there. What you can do is tell the story a little more effectively, take care of the lags, things like that. What we've done with Gone is used objects in a house, even the door, a teddy bear, you know, the keyhole, a loaf of bread, a knife, appear scary. I mean, would you ever imagine being scared by a loaf of bread? Believe me, whenever I go into the kitchen now, I have nightmares. I mean, I just don't go close to bread anymore. It's funny, but you see Gone, you know what I'm talking about. With one character alone in the house, which Urmila is, or supposedly is, that we'll come to know when we see the film. One character alone, how much can you do? You know, but the camera will move from here, suddenly run up the stairs, and she's on her rocking chair, and suddenly stop and go under the bed. And now it's up to me to give it the right stay, and suddenly cut to a top angle there. When you see the room empty, that scares me more, because what came in then? You know, how you cut a film, you know, ultimately, like I said before, decides how well the story is told. And I think Gone is very, very effective storytelling through editing. Yeah.
Now, tell me a little, as connected to the script that you're giving in Gone, something about that particular scene. I can remember what you're giving.
Gone, I'll tell you, Urmila is all alone at home. Yeah. And she lives in this lovely house that's in the outskirts of the city. It could be Panvel, could be anywhere. She's probably staying there waiting for her parents, talking on the phone. They haven't come back yet. She watches television. It's this voice that says it's a psychopath, this killer on the loose. And he has this very uniform style of killing or whatever, something like that. And please keep your doors and windows locked. Kisi ko bhi andar aane mat dena. You know. And this girl immediately panics. You know, she goes, latches the door, checks the windows, you know, and sits down. And she goes up to her room, and she's on a rocking chair. Something, she feels a presence around. And she comes down, she sees the most shocking visual she's ever seen in her life. Her entire living room, an empty house, is filled with a few million people. You know, million, I exaggerated a little bit. We can't afford that kind of thing. No. So, but, and whether it's a dream, whether it's not, things like that, this, I'll leave that right there. And suddenly, everything's all right, and there's a knock at the door, you know. And she walks up to the door, and she looks, and there's a strange man who's trying to get into the house. What happens next? Let's watch the movie and find out.
What are your future projects?
Well, at the moment, I'm in London, right? I've been there for some time, for a few months now. I'm planning to, I'm staying there, settled there. I'm working on my own film, a film that I've been dying to direct for a long time. I had a lot of offers to make films, but we had prior commitments. And this is one film that I took my time on, the story and screenplay. I'm still working on it, in fact. There's a British company, Reduced Indian Film Corporation. Pravesh Kumar is the producer. They're very, very interested in, and they want to make the film. So I should be making it in 6 months. The film's called Godavari. It's a very hard-hitting film, and it'll make you wonder, you know, make you sit back and think at the end of the day. I mean, you won't be able to have a proper meal after that. You're going to be just thinking. I mean, is this the kind of life we live? We live in this world that we create for ourselves, you know. It's this pink utopian world. We pretend to live there, and we kind of overlook certain things that are so real. I mean, that exist, things like that. This film won't overlook those things in life. It's about a search for a girl, Godavari, who disappears from a little village in Telangana district in Andhra Pradesh, and she lands up in a red light area in Kamatipura. And it's a search for her, and her craving for freedom, and how she's withering every day, and how there is this man and a lot of people trying to look for Godavari. It establishes the nexus between the police force, certain sects of the police force, and the underworld, and the pimps, and certain, well, politicians. It's based on true accounts of this one girl, Kusum, who died of AIDS recently. I spoke with her, met with her for a long time, and I kind of wrote Godavari then. It's not an art film, it's a real film.
Is it for Indian audiences or for foreign listeners?
It's for a world audience, but I know somewhere if I do not affect the Indian audience the way I want to, my film isn't worth it. I was watching a film the other day in the theatre, a film called Fire, right? And whether the film's a good film or not a good film is a debatable thing, but I think it was a very bold film. The sad thing was the entire audience was hooting and whistling for the wrong reasons all around me. They kept making a comment and wanting their voice to be heard and things like that, and just couldn't concentrate. The film might be really, really successful, but if I was a director, I've lost. I've really lost. That's something I'm trying to avoid. So that shouldn't happen with my film.
All the best to you, Apurva. And finally, will it be correct for me to call you Ram Gopal Verma's protege?
I'd be honored actually, but a lot of people would like to take credit for that, They'd feel a little bad, but I've learned a lot from Ram Gopal Verma. Satya has been my training ground, and I owe him a lot. He's the finest filmmaker in the country, but I'm coming along.
Thank you, and all the best to you.
All right, thank you.